Ryan, sir. Oh,
Hey.
look at all of you guys there.
Yeah, we figured the camera was already in the wide angle, so why not just do it all?
And that's
Well,
the
I
only
messed with
reason.
it.
It's literally
Hey,
the
Ken,
only reason.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, I'll work on it.
I have literally dragged myself out of bed for this.
You know what? You know what? You have the thing that my wife and I have had for the past like 5 days. And
A
we're just
Minecraft
getting over it. No, the flu.
Yes, a
has-
sweaty Minecraft sweat.
He has the flu, and he is still streaming for us.
I appreciate that. That's
I have a streaming flu, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're all going to get it.
Yeah, I've been getting a little of that.
Why don't you guys go like back off a little bit? I've got an 8-month-old. I
The
don't.
wide angle is only so wide.
Yeah.
How far away can you get?
We're dropping Canadian
Uh-oh.
packets.
We dropped the
Oh,
Canadian
no.
packets.
Do
Oh,
the
no.
Canadian packets have the flu?
Apparently.
He infected his packets,
We'll give him a call. Give him a second here.
and
We'll call him back.
they got dropped at the antivirus on the router.
I'm in another page of my rundown.
We may,
That's a
since the
deep
poor
packet
man is
inspection.
sick, we may shorten his his segment some if he feels bad, and we'll go into something else like
Something freestyle.
Sebastian does handstands, or
No, that's later.
that's after the beer
That's at
gets,
7.
gets dropped out. Yeah, yeah.
Fails at handstands, which is even more entertaining.
All right. Any luck?
It's trying to get him back.
It's trying to get it back.
What happens if two people dial each other? at the
Like
same
I don't know, like
time?
the telephone issue you have on cell phones.
Yeah.
I don't
Where you both get each other's voicemails.
think.
Does it just connect you?
I bet
think
it
it
doesn't.
does.
I bet it doesn't. I bet it's not smart enough.
That'd be interesting to know.
I bet it's not smart enough.
Hey,
Somebody's
have you done
probably
a
tried that.
PC build for Emma yet?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't even let her use my phone. 'Cause
I
she's got
can't.
slobbery hands.
I can't let Julian use my phone
Yeah.
because the first thing he does is just shoves it as far into his
yeah.
mouth as he can, and it comes out just covered.
Yeah. It turns out all babies want to
spit.
do is eat everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it. That was
I'll give
all I
him-
had for you.
That was
I'll give him one of my old
Thanks.
Lumia phones.
And now no video.
It's an interesting shade of green we got going.
Yeah, he's you know,
Let me have a look here.
there's gonna be.
Yeah. I'm looking good so far, except that nothing. There you go. Try. Well, look at that.
There he goes.
Perfect.
You know what? I think the interesting shade of green was probably better.
A very certain shade of green.
So you got the flu today?
Yeah, just for you. I want to make sure this was an event.
I swear I didn't send it to you as like a welcoming gift to the to be on the stream.
That'd be
so.
international
Last time Hewlett was seen
biological.
alive. Basically.
PC per live stream.
Well, I greatly, even more so, appreciate you making the time and the effort to drag yourself out of bed to be on our stream.
No, I wanted to be. I don't want to miss this. My wife was like, "No, you're too sick." I'm like, "No, I'm too much of a geek."
Well, if it starts to get to you, you want to cut it short for your segment. That's fine. We've got plenty of things we can fill in. We got people who can do handstands or something like that for world
Nice.
record 8-minute times. So
No, if it gets bad, that's great streaming. Like, you can watch the guy from Stargate like hurl live stream.
we got him hurling on the stream. We got him.
Yes.
Listen, I mean, you used to get like sick in the series all the time and stuff. So
You had to act through
now
it.
you're just doing it for real for us.
It's you know what the reality is. No one knows when I'm really sick or not, anyways, because I am the biggest hypochondriac on the planet.
Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here again. So I'm curious, like you're saying, you're the geeky type. You've been on our show before, and it's always interesting because I don't think you're the kind of person that like directly follows every hardware release that comes out, but you are always interested in the hardware itself to some degree. If
I
you,
used to like when it first, like back in the days of the 8088s. I was every single, anything that came out. I read about it. I had to know how it worked, and then I sort of dropped the ball for like a year around the Pentium, and then that was it. I feel like I know nothing now.
I see that being that kind of happens. I feel like that happens to me on games. Like if I am out of the ecosystem for like a year,
Yeah.
the idea of jumping back in is like so much. It puts like this fear into my body of like, oh my god, I'm going to be so far behind. Or like even playing one particular multiplayer game, right? Like if you're a Call of Duty guy and you go in a year late, you might as well wait to the next game.
It's like, might as well just put a target on yourself.
Right. All right.
It's like if you were to jump into WoW now, Like, what would you even do?
I know. Well, I didn't. Like when it first came out, I was like, "This is it. This is perfect." Then I went, "Wait a second. This is the end of my life as I know it."
Yeah.
So I just didn't.
You just fought the urge.
Yeah, I fought it.
That was a smart move.
I fought games for ages. Like I felt like, I'm so uptight that I always felt like, well, there's something better I should be doing. And then I got a kid, and it's great because all of a sudden it's like I have to. If I want to spend time with my kid, I got a game.
Hence the sweatshirt you're wearing, I assume.
Yes, yeah, I'm a huge Minecraft fan. I mean, it's just an amazing game to me.
That game, I'm going to be honest with you. I've played it maybe 3 times in my entire life, and kind of for the same reason. So I'd say the first reason I was kind of opposed to it was like, this is for the kids. But now it's more like I know so many people who are my age or around that are attached to it. It's like, okay, now it's the same thing of, well, I don't have time to build spaceships or calculators in Minecraft, so this is really not the thing I want to start with now at this point in time. So when you play it with your son, what do you like? What is the interaction like? What is it? Are you building?
I just die a lot. And
Yeah.
he finds it very amusing. It's like, Dad, get out of the hole. I keep falling in holes. I'm like, I suck. I mean, I suck at playing, but I love it because to me it's like visual math. It's like watching the kid build things and work out how to put things together is Lego in a way that you can't do with real Lego.
Right.
And I'm really hoping it's going to get him interested in the programming side of stuff, and it's got me back interested in it as well. I mean, Java was something when it first came out that I was absolutely fascinated with. I got the developer kit and played with that. And then to see this game, this wonderful sort of cross-platform game, and how the mods are fascinating to me. How these people are going in there without a proper API and creating mods that just completely change the Minecraft world. That's fascinating to me.
So if we look at the world of hardware, or any kind of tech really, what is interesting you currently? Like what do you find kind of compelling or interesting that you're trying to dive into these days?
Well, the gaming stuff is definitely. I mean, I know I'm late to the party on that, but I feel like the gaming. I don't understand. Like, perfect example of me is I watched World War Z, right? Did I get that right? Is that the right one?
Is that the Fast Zombies movie?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Which was not the first. That was the 28 days later. It was way better than that. Anyways, let's not go there. That's a whole other nerdy discussion there. But I watched that movie and I was like, you know what? I can understand kids being like, but I can't play it. Like, it's exactly the same. It's like an okay zombie game, except you can't play it.
Right.
So I was like, Hollywood, you're losing. You dropped the ball here. Like, I feel like my industry, which I've spent all my life sort of trying to understand and be a part of, and for all its frustrations and confusing ways, I suddenly went, oh my God, these guys they just don't get it. Like, there's just, they don't understand the games. They don't understand, what people want and especially what the younger generation wants. I mean, my son doesn't watch television or film anymore. I have to sit him down to watch films. It's like him watching historical documents. I have to say, no, you're damn well going to sit down and watch all of the Raiders movies because, you have to see how bad they become. Excuse me.
Did you, have you seen the previews? What's that movie, Ken, that's in first person? Something Harry?
Yeah, I forget.
Oh, that sounds neat. That's the guy who did, what is it?
I'm blanking.
It's the South African.
The whole movie is in the first person. I saw a trailer for that recently.
Yeah.
And the robot, basically, it's from like an android perspective.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Elysium guy.
Well, I don't know why I'm blanking on this. First, Hardcore Henry. Hardcore Henry.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called Hardcore Henry.
Yeah.
I saw a preview for it when I went to go see Deadpool, and the entire movie is in first person. The primary character doesn't speak, or if it does, it doesn't happen in the preview.
Yeah.
And like, it's an action movie from a first person shooter perspective. I'm very curious to see if that does anything to kind of address what you're talking about, David, which is like...
Except that it's the same problem. It's like a hobbled version of the game. I mean, like, why do I want to see a first-person movie? Well, I mean, look, it's probably great. I'm not saying there's not a place for that kind of stuff. But from a kid's standpoint, oh, wow, it's first-person. I play that every day. Like,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And and I think that's that's part of the part of my frustration with the industry is I feel like I'm watching like everyone's freaking out about VR right now,
Right.
And I really fought that. I was like, it just looks stupid. Like that time cover is the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah,
Guy
it
like
was.
Yeah.
you know, this like looks like he's like staggering around, which is what everyone's doing. They're staggering around their living rooms. I mean, so I fought it, but then I've been working on a game with a guy that I met through Stargate. I love Stargate because it's always a nerd who knows a nerd who knows a nerd. It's great. And this guy, this Byron Atkinson Jones, he's created this. He's done a number of games, but the one he's working on now is called Caretaker, and it's this. He calls it tactical computer perspective. So basically, it's a reason for it to be sort of a stylized
Sure.
world, like in this spaceship structure, and he's doing this whole game by himself. Like it's just him, and he's got into this VR stuff, and he said he loves it. And then my wife came back from Berlin the other day. Jane gets the cool job. I get to stay in wintry Toronto and shoot dark matter. She gets to go to Berlin and hang out, hobnob with people.
It happens.
As is the case. And there was a VR display there, and she came back and she's like, "We are doing VR. Like we have to do VR." And I have the Oculus development kit up here. I have the Vive upstairs. I don't have a PC to run it because I bought a stupid one.
Yeah, so we actually had Ben Kuchera, who works at Polygon.com, on the stream earlier today, and he's kind of like the primary VR guy there, and he brought in the stuff for show and tell, and he talked. I mean, when he is the enthusiastic person about VR, so that when you get done talking to him, be like, I want to get VR.
He drips with enthusiasm about it.
He really does.
Yeah.
And I've done a handful. I've done 10
Dripping
demos.
with enthusiasm is just not a good thing.
That's true.
well-
Usually leads to the flu, which is what maybe.
Yeah,
is what
I'm
I
dripping
mean.
with enthusiasm right now too.
I've done enough demos to be really excited about it, but he has seen. So he's got the Vive at his place. He's got one of the early models, and he says he's got like 28 demos that he's able to run through on a regular basis, and he comes away like super impressed. And I'm on the edge, kind of like maybe you were, and maybe still are, where I feel like it's going to be shoehorned into everything, maybe unnecessarily. Like I had a press call with the Associated Press, ironically enough, where they were talking about they're going to integrate VR and 360-degree video into as many of their news stories this year as they can.
Oh.
Right? So the idea is, like they take 360-degree video capture equipment into a story, whether it be a place where there's violence going on or a place where what was the one we saw? There's like a tent city of refugees.
Right.
And they were walking around interviewing people. But the idea was like you can look anywhere now, right? Like now you can look anywhere. And to me it was just like, yeah, but don't I want to look at the thing that you're showing me? Like as the director of this content, whether it be a movie or a TV show or news content.
Interesting point.
You should be curating 360 degrees worth of everything down to something that I'm interested in and is worth noting, right?
Yeah.
So 360 degree gaming or 360 degree movies or whatever you want to do it puts the impetus of knowing where to look when on the person instead of on the content creator, and I think that has the potential to be problematic, I guess.
Yeah. There's some venues that does not suit itself to like online instruction. You don't want 360. You don't want your students to be like,
Well, yeah,
they
wandering
can just
around.
do this, and
or you
not
can
pay
lean over
attention
and
to
look
the-
at somebody else's test scores. Or something.
Although, I mean, the stuff that got, I agree. It smacks a little bit of the choose your own adventure days. Where it's like, what a great idea, and you're going to come up with every single possible. I want to go in here. We haven't built that yet. That's there's a bit of that kind of stuff, but I feel like any new technology, they shoehorn into everything they can. And especially Canada's great at that too, because they have funds. They have like technology funds, and so in order to show that you're leading edge or bleeding edge stuff, they go VR. So everything's VR, like everything. Jane saw one in Berlin that she loved, which she thought was very smart because it was an insane asylum, and so she was strapped into a wheelchair. She wasn't really, but she put the headset on, and she felt like she was strapped because that was the conceit for the game. And they took them through this insane asylum, and it was like creepy, and it really freaked her out, and she thought it was amazing. My son came home the other end of the spectrum. Like, so she had the full immersive, like it was amazing, the whole thing. My son comes home and he's telling me all about great white sharks and how they're gray from above and white from below, and the reason why, and how he saw this and he saw that and he saw the rainforest. And I was like, what do you mean, you saw a movie or what? Like what? He goes, no, they had the Google Cardboard in their classroom, and it absolutely. I mean, it was talk about. I mean, you're talking about the students looking away. The idea of walking through, being told about stuff, and you could still hear them talking about it while you look around and see your own perspective of this stuff. I think there's definitely some potential there, and it is a very different way of telling stories. So I'm really curious to see how what can be done with it, and especially from the gaming standpoint. If you want a truly immersive gaming experience, that would be the way to do it. I'm just a little concerned. I just don't see. The thing I love about playing Minecraft with my son is that we sit together. He's usually over there, and I'm here, and we just, we banter back and forth while we do it.
Right.
If we're just staggering around, bumping into each other with these VR things on, I don't know how it's going to work.
If you do that, make sure you have somebody filming it.
You should exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be tons of like VR fail videos.
Oh yeah. Well, Ben was here. He was talking about when he was using it. And there's some demo where like there's a table with a cauldron on it. And you can put different ingredients in it to pick it up and make some potions. And he went to set his controller down on the virtual table, right? And it just fell, right? And he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I like the first fail." He talked about like accidentally trying to lean up against the table when it's not there. It's a fake table, and like you could just fall onto your face when you do that type of stuff.
That's neat. I've only ever done the Google Cardboard one, which was for The Expanse. They had this beautiful little sort of ship display, and you could sort of wander, you could sort of look around the ship, basically, which was great, but it wasn't nearly as immersive as the sense I get, like with this Vive and stuff, the controllers. I mean, I feel kind of guilty that it's sitting upstairs, like it's just in the box upstairs. So.
You should feel guilty. If you're not going to use it, you should send it to somebody who is going to really utilize it, or somebody could send you some PC hardware to
or you
properly
could do a PC
utilize.
Yeah, you trade me a PC for. Wait a second. Well, I wanted to talk to you guys about it because I started looking at the stats on this stuff, and I'm going to be very geeky, and I'm actually going to pull it up because there was some stuff that blew me away, and I know you guys. The numbers will mean more to you. But they're talking about having to do. Where is it? So they're saying per eye, they're doing 457 million pixels a second, and that doesn't include the eye buffer, which compensates for the actual sort of whatever the aberrations are in the lens.
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty serious PC, right?
It is. If you look at the minimum spec requirements or guides from both Oculus and HTC for the Rift and for the Vive, it's recommending like minimum of a GTX 970 and a minimum of a quad core. I think they recommend like a Core i5 45 something processor. It is I think easily the highest kind of minimum requirement for a game or a platform that we've seen thus far.
Yep.
And the reason is, and I had somebody in the chat was asking me this earlier, is why is it so high? Why is it so high for VR gaming when we have very good high fidelity graphics games today and 4K screens and all that? Why does it seem so high? And the answer is because they want your ceiling, your floor to be 90 frames per second.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you think about it now, how many people are out there gaming at 25 by 14 or even 1080p where their frame rate never goes below 90 on a reasonably good looking PC game? And the answer is probably zero or close to zero.
Yep.
Right.
And the other issue is it's rendering it twice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's rendering the field for each individual eye. So you're basically forcing the system to do, for the most part, twice the work. Like there's
and it's got this buffer as well, apparently, which I don't entirely understand. But there's a whole bunch of extra rendering that they have to do that you never see, which is used to. So there's obviously and it's not dual GPU, which I was surprised.
It's an interesting debate because in theory it would make sense, right, to have
Absolutely.
one GPU per eye.
Yeah.
The problem is multi-GPU tends to introduce slight bits of latency into the render pipeline. And if you do that with VR, the whole goal of VR, the whole point of having 90 frames per second in reality is to minimize latency of what they call pixel to photon, or no, motion to photon, right?
Yep.
So when you move your head, the processing from the the sensors in the headset back to the PC into the game engine, into the GPU to be rendered, to then be output through the display back into your eyeballs. That's like motion to photon, and that has to be very low, lower than it's ever really had to be on any other display before.
Yeah, because if it gets past the threshold, it becomes unconvincing.
It becomes unconvincing. It makes you nauseous.
Yep.
Which is my issue.
I had the issue. So I had a DK1 and a DK2, and neither of those could I honestly use for more than like 10 minutes at a time before I would start to feel sick. And sometimes
I get queasy playing Minecraft sometimes.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of that particular stuff, like with the VR headsets, is even with the modern stuff, the newer versions of both those platforms. If the game is set up in a way where I can use the mouse to turn my head in the virtual world and turn my head in the virtual world, that doesn't work for me. That's like immediate. Oh, my mind goes, oh no, that's not going to work. And I've had to like back out of a couple of demos of people that are trying to show me their game, because you have to both rotate your head and rotate the mouse in order to look in the right spot to do the right thing. And I'm like,
no, you can't.
That's not me. I know some people have the ability to do that. I don't. So I think VR will be pretty much the talk of PC hardware through 2016.
Well, and this is how jaded I am, because I also feel like, okay, you've got the PC world for normal non-nerds. The PC world has been completely unexciting for God knows how long. There's been no need to really update computers, and VR suddenly goes, oh my God, you are like, everyone's computer is now obsolete. Everyone needs to update everything, and I just feel a bit like there's got to be a lot of hardware companies going like, woohoo, all right, here we go. Yeah, VR, it's amazing. We all need one in our house, because it really is the only reason out there. I mean, short of like professional gaming or 4K, I guess in 4K cinema. 4K cinema is the same thing. Everyone's like freaking out about 4K cinema in our industry, and a big part of that is because they want. Do we really need it? Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. It looks beautiful, but more importantly, it sells new monitors. It just keeps that industry going. It keeps that build going.
I don't think you're jaded at all, because I think all of those hardware companies are exactly doing that. NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, not so much, but the graphics card guys are absolutely looking for any way at all to say, you need our higher end model, you need our highest profit margin models. But I'm curious about the 4K thing, because do you think, is 4K going to be the same kind of fad that 3D was on TVs, or do you think?
Which is my concern. Okay. That's my concern as well, because the 3D thing, I'm sorry, but I always felt the 3D I thought it was fun, gimmicky, and it's really fun. There's a great quote by one of the guys who was at one of these sort of like old school film guys, and they said like, is VR and 3D, isn't it a bit gimmicky? And he was sort of laughing and saying like, it's the film industry. It is a gimmick. The whole thing, like the whole idea. I mean, back in the Nickelodeon days when they first started film, it was about, ooh, look, they're moving. It's totally a gimmick. So of course the industry will embrace every new and crazy gimmick that comes up. But 3D, I never bought into. Did anyone get like a 3D TV or anything?
Well, I think I got a 3D TV because. Well, I had to do testing here.
For you just got a model that had 3D.
But like, I just bought a TV. It's like, oh, it happened to have 3D in it. Like the TV in my bedroom has 3D, and I've never taken the glasses out of the box.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
My living room TV, big Samsung TV with 3D. The glasses are still in the box. I don't care about that.
So that makes me the only guy here that's actually watched some 3D movies. Seriously?
I have watched them at like friends' houses or whatever, or like I said, when we did here and we're talking about technology stuff, I've demoed them. I watched. What's the Cameron movie, the big one? Avatar, right? Yeah, the big one that was like, this is the launch one type of thing. And it looked great. And I thought, I don't really want to wear these glasses.
That's the turnoff for me, is that the glasses, usually they have the battery and the electronics are in the nose.
And like, do I have enough sets for the 5 people that are coming over to watch a movie?
That's the next thing, yeah. I mean, and they never I mean, I guess they did do some glassless ones, didn't they? They did some kind of a.
They did
it was
passive glasses, but I don't think they ever did glasses-less ones.
Oh, really? Oh,
Or if
okay.
they did,
So
they weren't like
It was
mainstream
very, it was
pricing.
very tricky. Everything in your head had to be like in a perfect, like in certain
If you ever
zones.
used a Nintendo 3DS, that lenticular 3D effect, you have to be within a very narrow area.
Yeah.
And in fact,
you know
with
what?
later
We turn
DSs,
it
they
down
had
all the
eye
time.
tracking.
And we turn down the 3DS 3D thing all the time. Like it doesn't help you play the game at all.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's interesting. I keep coming back to that Time cover. Like I think he did himself such a great disservice, the Oculus guy.
Yeah.
By being on the front of that magazine because it pointed out like I suddenly had this like flashback to like 1960s. It's the car of the future. You know, like it's just like, you know, it's going to have a tea caddy in the, you know, like it's just all these like ridiculous bells and whistles. I at the same time, I'm as scared as I mean, Hollywood runs on fear. Like it's everyone is terrified of missing out on the next big thing.
Yep.
And I often feel like I joke with my wife that I'm a week ahead of people. I feel like generally I'm like I'm just becoming aware of something that I think could be the next thing, and then like a week later it hits and I missed it. You know what I mean? Like that's I feel like I just need to somehow extend that gap a little bit more. Maybe I'd make some money. But VR, I've resisted, but so many people have tried it, including Jane, who is she is not enamored with technology at all. I am fighting for my PC, my VR PC right now. So she's not that enamored with the stuff, but she was absolutely blown away by it.
Well, I think that's a
in its
shoe-in.
place.
If she is so enamored with it, that's a perfect reason to build a PC.
Yes, but honey, we have to build this.
Right.
I was like, well, honey, if we're going to do development, I mean, we have the development kit here, and Byron should probably come and stay with us for a while.
Yeah. You got to do it.
I think the way that VR headset stuff will go, like in 5 or 10 years out or whatever, I think it'll be more like the Glyph. You know what the Glyph is?
Yeah.
That like
The one that looks like the Geordie LaForge piece?
yeah, it's basically, but it's not just a whole screen that has to sit over your eyeballs. It's just a thing that, if they miniaturized it enough, could be, a thing that's sitting in front of your eyes, and if you happen to look down or something or up, then you would just.
Something about bifocal VR?
Well, no, it basically. Well, you only have the effect when you're like it's because it uses your eye as part of the optics for the whole thing to work.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like you have to look at a screen. It's just like if your cornea is at a certain point in space, like your
It just
field of
projects
vision-
onto it?
Yeah, it basically projects directly on your
Gotcha.
retina. That's what the Glyph is.
So obviously the next step is implanted.
No,
VR.
but I think it would still be like that, but just like maybe something where they can make that small enough and out of the way enough to where you can still look like a normal person and not have
Well,
a big
I'm
old
all for
thing
that. I
on
mean,
your
look,
face.
it's funny you talk about the implanted stuff. Eventually, there are going to be ways of tapping in, obviously, to physically tapping into our brains to allow this stuff to happen. Which again, not something to be taken lightly. Like I'm talking with Q right now, the guy I'm doing the documentary about, or with, basically, not really about, it's with. And he wants nothing to do with implant. Like he doesn't want any. There's no surgery involved in anything he wants to do. It's all external stuff. I'm like, well, come on, man. Like let's just get something put in. I have no qualms about that kind of stuff. Maybe it's because I'm an actor. I'll be getting as many implants as I need to lift this a little.
You got to
bit.
get yeah. Surgery and implants and Botox, no problems.
No
But
problem.
I mean, basically, you could go as far as saying that chemicals could be the way to. Now this is going down a whole other road, isn't it? But the idea that we are really just sort of bags of chemicals. Maybe there's a way of tricking the brain into thinking that these things are happening in a way that you want them to.
I absolutely believe that would be the case eventually.
I think there have been ways to take virtual reality trips since the 1960s.
Yes, I was just gonna go there. Like I think they need to be a little more fine-tuned for what we want.
Yeah, that I'm not entirely thrilled about. I don't like the idea of like experimenting with that. I think I'll hold off on that.
In the 60s and 70s, they did a lot of VR research.
Yeah,
Yes.
just random VR is the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like it
was chaotic VR.
What was that?
It was chaotic VR.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's something about. I mean, when you look at something like Clockwork Orange, where they were basically playing with this stuff already, weren't they? The idea of like, just sort of forcing people's eyes open and only allowing them to see certain things. And I mean, we've been fascinated with the idea of like having things on our faces and just being inundated with information.
Yeah.
for forever. So it makes sense that we've sort of got there now. I actually prefer. I think in my mind, I feel that augmented reality is a better solution.
I agree. So there was a tweet that I really liked, and I can't remember what it said precisely, but it was like it basically said like the AR versus VR battle. Those are two very different things, and it was.
I don't think it's a battle. They really are different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea, like, I think it was like AR will bring the world to you, VR takes you to the world, something to that effect.
Okay.
Right? Where AR allows you to interact with data and information in one way. Sitting here, we could, like we're going to play Risk later on a giant touchscreen PC that lays on the table. But if we all had AR glasses, we wouldn't need any of that.
You mean VR glasses?
No, AR.
Oh.
If we had AR, we could have
that's
the
true.
Risk board here, and we would be interacting with it in a different way. We'd all have our own different
yeah.
viewpoints.
Well, it's the
of it.
chess. It's the chess set from Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
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 Only you have to wear glasses. No, I love that because I miss. I got to be the only person who's going to say this, but I miss Google Glass because I loved the idea that my little reading glasses here could have, PC access to information that I need, or to help, look up a word when I'm reading, or while I'm trying to fix something, be able to pull up information about schematics or whatever. I mean, imagine doing a PC build and having being able to look at the process and have all the information about it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, through your show would be amazing because you could be pulling up stats and stuff as you go.
You're definitely not the only person that misses it. I don't miss that form factor. I don't miss that battery life. I don't miss that
Oh
implementation.
no, it was a disaster. I mean, the battery life was a joke.
The implementation was.
You actually tried it
I don't
out.
want to say it was bad.
Right? You had.
I had one. I had a set. I bought a set and then I
Yeah, I
returned
played
it.
with them too. Do you bought one? You actually paid for it?
But then
Yeah.
I returned it.
Oh, okay.
Right, like right inside that 30-day window, because what happened was I used it, like I got it around Christmas time.
Yeah.
Like I took it to all my family events. Everybody was amazed by it. They wanted to see it. And then one day, like 2 weeks later, I put it down, and then like 4 days went by. I'm like, oh yeah. And I was like, yeah, it turns out I don't need that.
Yeah.
Right. But it was an implementation thing. It wasn't that the information that it provided was bad or that I couldn't see it. Because you're right, like. Especially if you're already wearing glasses, the idea of it projecting that onto the lenses directly, or something like that could be really useful. I would love to have it just for facial recognition.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just to be like, honestly,
Who is that
that's
person?
exactly me. I go to these stupid things where there's like 100 people saying like, "Hey, David," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, dude."
I'm the worst at that. Like, can anybody who goes on a trade show with me will know. And I have one rule when I go, like if my wife comes with me on a trip, I say, here's the rule. If somebody walks up to me and they say, hey, Ryan, they start talking to me, if I have not introduced you to them within 5 seconds or 10 seconds, you introduce yourself to them and say, oh, sorry, I'm Kelly. And then he says what his name is, and then that's how I get the information.
And then you go, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, silly me. I
Yeah.
didn't introduce you."
That's a good idea.
That's a good social engineering trick.
Oh, you don't do that? I do that all the time.
I gotta
That's
start doing that.
Well, Jane will do it with my family. Like, this is Kate, your sister.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. My sister. Gotcha.
Yeah, because I have like 5 younger sisters. I get their names wrong all the time.
So tell me a little bit about the project you are working on. You mentioned Q. I know something that you and I have talked about
Yeah.
a little bit recently.
Yeah, it's Q is this kid I met. Well, he's 20, 21, 22. I guess he doesn't consider himself a kid. I consider everyone a kid now because I'm so old. But I was doing this silly little YouTube thing, and I said I wanted to be, when I grow up, I wanted to be Han Solo. But the reality is, I ended up being C-3PO. That's sort of where I went with my life, and I said, who are you and what did you want to be? And I got a bunch of responses. And one of the responses I got was this incredibly geeky one, where he was like, I want to be, I am a human, but that is no longer enough. I would like to be a cyborg. And I'm like, oh boy, this guy's like in a whole other world. Do not make eye contact. But like the glutton for punishment that I am, I sort of looked into this guy, and he has a form of SMA type 2. He has SMA type 2, which is a sort of a form of muscular dystrophy, basically. So it's a degenerative disease. He can't move. He had limited movement when he was growing up, but he's now basically completely bedridden. And he wants to use technology. He's fascinated with technology and robotics and molecular biology, and also, I mean, he's just like every day I talk to him, he's got a different thing that he's interested in. He's just been made like chief science officer or something at this Australian startup company that's doing, God, what did he call it? What is the term? I had to write it down because I thought it was so cool. Cellular agriculture.
Interesting.
So anyway, so he's just this amazing brain, trapped in a body that really can't leave his bed, but he wants to have physical control over the outside world. He wants to do. He's big into cooking. He loves cooking and experimenting with cooking and stuff. And so I started talking to him, and I was a lot. We talked a lot. And finally, my wife sort of came down one day and said, like, she's like, you talk to him more than you talk to your friends. Like, why don't we make a movie about this guy? So we started this film called Upgrade Required, which is about Q's quest to become a cyborg and what's out there and available to him, what he can do to do this. And then, of course, in talking with him, and for the last year or so, he can't do anything. Like, he can make contact with people, and he makes contact with people all over the place. He's got these amazing ideas. I mean, he wrote a little piece that I did the voiceover for about this cellular agriculture, and then that's how he got picked up for this job and stuff. So he's out there doing stuff all the time, but he can't physically build any of the stuff he wants to build. So we sort of quickly realized that that's going to be our job. So it's become almost less about a film and more about the idea of trying to put together these technologies and bring in as many people as we can to help make some of this stuff happen. He's created he's come up with a very sort of rudimentary exo neck that he wants to build, which, I mean, it's so ridiculous. We just take this for granted. But if you can't move your neck, you are so limited in what you can do. Even with a computer, if his head flops, that's it. It's there. Like, he can't move it again. So he's come up with a system that would basically just allow him to rotate his head just to start left and right. That was it. That's all he wants to do. And then he's hoping to do some more. But we're going out and talking to people. Like I say, I know a nerd who knows a nerd who knows a nerd. There's always somebody. And that's, of course, and that's why obviously I've been speaking with Ryan and Josh and stuff about this. But we're just trying to put something together for him. And in the process, I meet these amazing people. I go to these, whenever I go somewhere, I sort of put out a call and say, hey, who's got something that might apply to Upgrade Required? And I had a kid in Warwickshire when we were out visiting there who had been working on a brain-computer interface for a wheelchair for his thesis. So I go out there and I crashed that into a few desks, and he showed me how the stuff works. And so I think we started off with a film. It's almost now like an engineering project. And I think what makes the most sense for us probably is, I think we're going to try to look into making it as a television series, because literally every week there's something new to look into. And it's like, for a nerd like me, it's like, I love it because it's robotics. It's molecular biology, which I know nothing about, but I get my marching orders. Like, he sort of starts talking about stuff. I'm like, okay, I better go look that up. And I feel that other people might sort of get sucked into this the way I have. And in doing the research about this stuff, I've met other people in his situation, and they all have this same incredibly high level of intelligence and interest and engagement in the world. And 15 years ago, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Like, they'd be shut-ins. They couldn't. There was no way to communicate. There was no way to be an active part of the world. And now they can be. And I'm convinced that because this physical body has been removed from their concern, really. I mean, there's nothing they can do. It's they're relying on other people to sort of deal with their physical bodies. That their minds have become these amazing, almost like transcended human type. They're going to rule the world, in the future. I'm convinced, because they're having to train their mind to do so much more than we do. So
it's a super interesting project. I was glad Josh found it and brought it up to me as well, because I know it's something that we're trying to figure out how to help you with as well. What would you? So if somebody wants to follow that, if somebody wants to follow this progress, is there a place already where they can start to do that?
Yeah, we have my website has some sort of basic information about it, which is changing all the time. The best thing, honestly, is my Twitter. Like I keep, I just keep sort of dropping little things here and there about who we've talked to and stuff. Like we just talked to Double Robotics. I saw this great little telepresence robot that they created, and so in my typical cheeky way, I sort of said, "Hey, we could use one for upgrade required," and they got in touch and they talked to us, and sure enough, they're gonna lend us one of those, and it's just that kind of stuff. So I just keep going with that. But yeah, it's filmtvinternet.com has some information about it as well. So
That's cool stuff. So like I said, let us know, let me know, let Josh know whenever, if you need anything, if you want to talk about any of that kind of stuff at any point, we'll schedule the time to do so. We'd absolutely love to be involved in that project.
that would be great. Yeah, I feel like it's stuff that you guys might get a kick out of too, because there's a lot of technology stuff. You guys were playing with the Arduino boards and stuff too, weren't you?
Yep. Ken does a lot of that stuff here. Yeah.
And we started playing with 3D printers, which is kind of related as well.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Q was a huge 3D. Oh, look at that. Oh wow, what are you building?
It's a secret. You're supposed to guess.
Yeah, you have to guess.
Yeah,
So
we've
it's
been
a very big bowl.
We've been printing this for 6 hours, and that's where it's at. So
6 hours. And how much of that? No, okay, so 3D printing.
Yeah.
Are you liking
Yeah.
that?
yeah, we're really just now starting into it. I did. So Ken had a little bit more of experience with this through like a robotics and a group at school. And I literally knew zero about it. And I said, Monoprice is a company that we work with, and they were like getting into selling 3D printers. And I said, send me a 3D printer, like your basic 3D printer and a bunch of filament, and we're gonna Ryan's gonna figure out how to do this from scratch, knowing nothing about it, like how to do it, like what the file formats are, what the process is. So the first episode was up of me like putting together the 3D printer and like printing out the first thing we did, which was a swan, like a little swan caricature. And so I mean, we've already used it. Like we printed a GoPro mounting kit for our GoPro, which is currently being used to show that shot of 3D printer, right? And so we're kind of getting started. That pretty much all we've made for now is like little toys and little useless pieces. But like you see people like Thingiverse.com has just lots of things that are actually really cool. Like you want to you can print out a headphone stand for your headphones, right?
Yeah,
You want to
they're
print
all
out
practical things.
Yeah. And
how hard is it to? I mean, if do you have to know much about the 3D software and stuff? I mean, is it fairly basic, or is
so
it?
It depends on what your goal. Like if you're downloading stuff from Thingiverse, and Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the time you're getting it in the format that's kind of ready to print.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what is the format? What does it use?
It's a STL file, just a 3D modeling file.
And apparently it's
Yeah.
like XML,
Oh, really?
right?
Yeah.
No, that's what you told me. Like it's just
It's
like
but it's maybe not XML.
it's
but
basically
just
like coordinates.
yeah, it's a bunch of coordinates that just makes the 3D thing.
Yeah.
And then you just sometimes there's an intermediate step where to make the 3D printer, that particular 3D printer, be able to print that thing correctly, like if there's supports or
Yeah.
some stuff. But that's usually
Yeah,
with most of
you
these things,
essentially
it's-
take the STL file and put it through software that translates it to your specific 3D printer.
Yeah, but for the most part, that right as it is right now, that tends to be just like a 1 or 2 step. Like it's not really.
As long as you're
very
not
hard
as long as
thing.
you're not the one doing the 3D modeling,
Yeah.
right? It seems to be
You don't have to do that much. I see.
you don't have to do that much, right? Now, if you want to get into a 3D model, you have to get into applications like slicers that basically will go through it layer by layer and determine what kind of substructure there needs to be to hold that
Well,
structure together.
that is how you turn an STL file into what you print.
Yeah, that's
okay.
part of that's part of
It's
that
that
process also.
translation layer.
But there's software that kind of does that.
the software
for
that
you.
handles all
Yeah.
that stuff for you.
So really, it's just
So there's software that. So if you build something, if you build like a 3D thing structure in whatever software you're using,
Yep.
there's a program that will then say, oh, you're going to need supports for this, and I mean it figures
Yeah.
all that out for
Yeah.
you as well.
Yeah.
yeah, because that varies
Wow.
based on the 3D printer you're using.
And based on
Yeah.
And like the we have a single extruder here. There's a dual extruder that can do multiple different filaments at the same time.
Yep, 2 different colors.
We have filaments that are like water soluble, so like it builds a substructure that it needs while it's being built, but once it's finished, it doesn't need that. So you soak it in water, and that stuff washes
that's
away.
cool. So it just uses a different material for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Nice. There's a lattice work inside that just gets
Exactly.
dissolved.
Yep.
That's funny. Q was talking about that with food creation, because his article was about the idea of creating fake meat. And he was talking about, it sounds charming, but he used a fungal process of creating meat. But part of the problem with meat is the texture. Texture is the thing that people miss. So he was talking about creating this sort of like plastic lattice.
Yeah.
Like the tiny, microscopic lattice that you would grow the stuff on. But the problem would be trying to sell people on eating plastic, basically.
Well, I mean, the plastics we're using now, when it's making it, it smells like cornflakes. Because it's essentially...
That's a bonus.
It's a cornstarch-based.
It's a cornstarch-based thing, so it's like it smells like cornflakes.
We had a biodiesel car for a while when we were living in Washington.
Yeah.
And I could just stand there smelling French fries the whole time. I just thought, honey, start the car. I'll be back here.
Well, I really appreciate you being on, David. I'm super excited that the project you're working on. I'm also glad that you fought through your flu to come join us here for a little bit.
Yeah, I actually feel better now. A little bit of geeking out. I feel
get the juices flowing, get the adrenaline going.
My son may get a game of Magic out of me after
There you
all.
go. So if somebody wants to follow you or catch up and keep track of what you're doing, where's the best place for viewers to do that?
I think on a daily basis, I'm a Twitter fiend. So at D Hewlett is the best bet for that. But also filmtvinternet.com is my website, and that's more the film corporate thing. So there's a bit of marketing stuff there, but it's Twitter's the best way.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, David.
Thank you, and enjoy.
We'll keep in touch.
I can't believe I missed the VR part. I came in and you guys were you had asses for heads and you were playing video games.
Yeah, that's right.
What was that game, by the way? Because my son's gonna love that.
What was it called? Rampage Nights. KNIGHTS.
Rampage Nights. And what's it on? Is it a Steam thing?
It's on Steam. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, I came in for that. I was like, oh, my son was like, he's missing out on this.
We'll have the VR segment up on YouTube for on-demand playback later this week, Monday or Tuesday.
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. I will. Yes, I will have a look.
And then we need to get your Vive running on something.
Yes. I have I have some specs that I'm gonna look into. I mean, it's a bit of a spend, but I figure it's probably worth it.
Probably.
Yeah. Better
All right.
be, so I can look like that guy on the front cover of Time.
Stay in touch.
All right, guys. Look, thank you very much. Enjoy, and we'll talk soon.
All right. See you, David.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this content, consider supporting in-depth technical content by contributing at patreon.com/PCPer.